Recording live in the virtual Lucky Number 7 Lounge, this is Dine, Drink Vegas, the podcast by and for everybody stuck at home, wishing they were in the land of neon lights and bad decisions. And you have found your way into episode number 36, 5 years after the world shut down, in which Bill and I are going to reminisce about what happened when COVID hit and everything that's changed in Vegas since. Of course, we're going to bring you our drink of the day and those news stories that Bill and I thought were interesting. But before we can do any of that, it is time to say hello to the high roller formerly of the High Plains, the leader in the luxury lounge, the king of comps, the Alabama slammer, the man who's always waiting for that limo to drive him away to his luxury resort. And I was going to get through that without tripping on my own tongue. Anyway, good evening, Bill.
How are you, John?
Well, clearly I'm not talking well, and I'm speaking as if I've had more to drink than I actually have. I'm a few sips in, and this week you picked the drink of the day. So why don't you tell the listeners what we've got, and then I'll tell them how to make one.
So today is the last day of the Masters Golf Tournament in Augusta, Georgia, and their official cocktail is something called the Azalea, which is made with vodka, lemonade, and grenadine. Now, if you look online, there are other variations which some people make. Some people will, for example, add pineapple juice or something else, but the official recipe is a shot of vodka, which they call 1.25 ounces, 5 ounces of lemonade, and a half ounce of grenadine with a lemon wheel for garnish, which is exactly how I made mine, but I made mine with one variation. I used diet lemonade to try to forestall the beatus for just a little bit longer. Now, John, you had an ingredient crisis at the last minute. What'd you do with yours?
Yeah, so I realized that oddly I was out of vodka, which I'm not as big a vodka drinker as you, but normally I've got a bottle on hand, and I don't remember killing my last bottle, but I do have young adults in the house. Sometimes they sneak daddy's booze, which is why we now have a locking liquor cabinet. So I went ahead and went with a nice silver rum. I, like you, used a diet lemonade, and I happen to have Jordan Skinny Syrup makes a sugar-free grenadine, so mine is beatus friendly and rum forward. I gotta say, if you threw some bitters in here or maybe some falernum, you would pretty much have a tiki drink. And if you know me and my love of rum, yeah, this is nice.
So I enjoy mine. I use, like I said, the diet lemonade, but I actually use the fully leaded grenadine. So the grenadine with sugar in it. And for me, that wound up being the right amount of sweet. Like it cut way down on the sweetness because, there's more of the lemonade than there is of the grenadine. It had just a little kick of sweetness that I really enjoy, right? And I'm not normally apt to get the other thing, listeners, that I think you've absolutely got to do to make this drink work, you've got to add ice, which is part of the official recipe.
Yes.
But no, this is absolutely designed to be consumed as an iced drink when you're outside on the golf course. And it this isn't something I'm normally going to walk into a bar and order, but if I ever find myself on a golf course again, yeah, absolutely, I will try it. Like, it's a nice change of pace. My neighbors have a pool. When they invite us over at some point in the summer, I may make a jug of these and take them over, and we'll just try to hide jug-tastic from the various teenagers in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and I was thinking the same thing. Every year we talk about pools in Vegas, so I'm sure we'll do a pool episode sometime in the near future. And I don't know that any Vegas pool has this on the menu. I don't know if they would know what an Azalea is if you asked for it. But if you said, hey, I would like a lemonade with a shot of vodka and a dash of grenadine, they could make this for you. It's not rocket science. I think any bartender at any pool in Vegas would be more than happy for what they charge for drinks. They'll go the extra mile. They're getting their money's worth out of it. So if you're a little burnt out on margaritas, but you still want something citrus forward. Now, and all this is, I don't know about you, Bill, I built mine in the glass and stirred gently in the glass. The, Augusta National Golf Course did not put a description in the recipe. They gave the proportions, but they didn't give the build instructions. So I ran into an online debate going, do you stir it in a cocktail stirrer? Do you shake it because there's citrus juice? I've never been to Augusta National, but you and I have been to golf courses at country clubs. Let's be real. This is a high ball that they build in the glass and give it a very quick stir.
Yeah.
This is not complex mixology here.
That's really what the ice is for, right? Like you put the ice and you walk around the golf course and it kind of auto shakes. Speaking of auto shake, can I take one really quick aside, John?
Of course.
Because I feel like our listeners need to know this. So in addition to being the last day of the Masters tournament, y'all, it is Palm Sunday. And John, a donkey did show up in church today, but we left the kangaroo outside. And I thought you should know that.
I have questions. Okay. Apparently, I haven't been to church in a very long time because I don't remember kangaroos. I thought I knew my New Testament very well. I remember him riding in on a donkey, but maybe little Jesus was in the pouch of the kangaroo. I don't know. Zacchaeus was a wee little man.
And, I could have given this drink to the kangaroo to have shaken up for a while. That would have made it even better. But I think this drink is phenomenal. It is absolutely something I'll do again. But again, it's not the I'm going to a bar on Friday evenings with my buddies drink. It's I'm sitting on the back porch with my wife, or I'm walking around the golf course, or something like that. This drink is appropriate for what Augusta National made it for.
Well, and it's 95, 96 degrees here in far west Texas already, even though we haven't hit May yet. So where I live, we don't quite get Vegas heat. Basically, my neck of West Texas, we get about 2 more inches of rain a year, and our summertime temperatures lag about 8 degrees from Vegas. So, like when I go to Vegas in the summer, I am not melting like the Yankees and Canadians. It's just slightly warmer than what I'm used to. I got to say, this is a thirst quencher for a day like today. So even though it's from swampy Georgia, this is a thing that I think if you're, like I said, if you're tired of margaritas, want something a little bit different, ask your bartender, shot of vodka or whatever spirit you want, glass of lemonade, splash of grenadine. You got a nice, refreshing cocktail. It doesn't come from Vegas, but I'm glad you brought this one up because it certainly would fit in just fine by the Vegas pool scene. So 100%. Let's jump on to our main story. So listeners, if you've been paying attention, we're about 57 weeks from the 5th year anniversary of the world coming to a screeching halt due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we all remember that late March. For those of us that work in a certain profession where there's a whole lot of children and teenagers involved, it was the spring break that never ended. And that since then, that's sort of become a way of marking time, I think, in the modern world, because we have the before times and post-COVID. And we wanted to spend a little bit of time today looking back on the last 5 years to reflect on what Vegas was like when it first opened back up, and then kind of reflect on how at least Bill and I think Las Vegas has changed for the better or for the worse. And looking at our list, I think it's mostly for the worse, although we still love Vegas enough to make this podcast. And we're going to start with our first trips back after the shutdown. And I'm going to go first because mine was chronologically first. So in July of 2020, my wife and I try to get away to Vegas every July. And we went in July of 2020, first or second week of July, somewhere around the 7th or 8th. And we stayed at the Aria. And the flight out was weird because the plane wasn't full. And normally the plane to Vegas is packed because people in our hometown love to go make bad decisions. But the plane was not full. There were open seats all over the place. I think the airline was intentionally underselling. You probably know by how much more than I do because you pay attention to airline stuff. Random noise. Not sure what that was. The flight there was, like I said, maybe 2/3 full. We had to be masked up at all times, which gets a little uncomfortable in the airplane, especially in July, because sometimes when you're on the tarmac, the air is not blowing very cold until you get skyborne. And so you're in a hot tin can with your mask on. Get to Vegas, had to wear the mask unless we were eating. Like if you were sitting at the restaurant, at least in July, the rule was you kept the mask up till your dinner arrived. You could pull it down real quick to take a sip of your beverage and then put it back up. Then you could unmask when there was physically food in front of you, right? So they gave you extra masks in your hotel room. They had hand sanitizer. They had that little thing that went on your key ring, the little pokey thing, so you didn't have to touch the elevator buttons.
I forgot that.
You forgot about the pokey thing.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, the Aria masks were great. Like I loved wearing my Aria mask, about one day a week for the rest of the year. It was very handy. MGM really stepped it up with nice masks. But it was a very weird trip. There were no international tourists at all. So prior to 2016, when you went to Vegas, you noticed not Asian Americans. We're talking people coming over from China and other parts of the East. You would hear various languages being spoken. It was a decidedly American-only crowd. There was no way to get into any venue anywhere. The servers were genuinely happy to see you because clearly business was down. Room rates were cheap. It was the first time my wife and I booked Aria. Usually my wife, we don't make a ton of money, but also my wife is kind of a cheapskate. So she loves New York at Park MGM because they're nice but affordable. She doesn't want to stay in a dump. She's not going to be at the Best Western down the road at Casino Royale. But normally she doesn't, unless it's a special occasion like our anniversary, she doesn't want to pay for the nicer properties. But Aria was dirt cheap. We had a blast. But it was a very weird, awkward trip. Bill, I think I was on your first trip back.
You were, although, sorry, you caught me mid-lemon wedge. I was enjoying the rest of my drink. So my first trip back to Vegas was so forgettable that I forgot it was my first trip back to Vegas till you made me walk through my own photographic evidence. My first trip was our standard guys trip on Labor Day weekend of 2020, where we went to the Mirage, and we have probably complained on this podcast now 4 or 5 times about the Steakhouse Bugsy and Meyer. It was that trip with the infamous, Bugsy and Meyer meal, right? Where we saw things that we can't unsee as people were coming out of the pool. And like some of my quick memories of that trip were, you were taught 2 things. One, you were talking about, it seemed like the planes were unfull. That's because at that point in time, most of the airlines were still leaving middle seats empty for social distancing reasons. I've got a picture of you and Mike sitting across the aisle from me with an empty middle seat between you. I just looked at that. I've also got more pictures than I can count of nose wieners. Whatever your position on masking is or was, there were a whole lot of folks at that point who were still kind of wearing masks in public, but didn't want to do it. So they'd do it, but they'd have their nose out, and that look was super weird. So that was a fun trip because we needed a trip at that point because we'd all been shut in our houses for 6 months.
Yes.
And also, I remember something else about your July trip, John. Do you know why you went a little bit upmarket on that trip besides the cheap prices?
No, you'll have to refresh my memory.
You and I and Mike and our respective families have been scheduled to take a quite complex cruise to the Bahamas.
Oh, yeah.
That got canceled, and it was going to be in July of 2020. And that got canceled, and we all had bonus deposit money back. And I think we took that money to Vegas and invested it appropriately.
Because we had travel insurance, and then the cruise line showed us some sugar. Yeah. I completely forgot. That's why in the pictures, my wife and I are eating at Bellagio and things like that. We had a really good trip. It was great. And it's
so go ahead. What's
I was going to say
in Vegas instead?
So here's one of my takeaways. I'm still noticing years later, in the year and a half after COVID, there were almost no foreign tourists. And if you were going to Vegas before COVID, you just ran into people, and you could see the influence in Vegas. Like there's a lot of Asian themed things. in Vegas, including things in Chinese and things like that, because that was a big part of the clientele, right? Venetian in particular catered to an Asian audience. Bellagio catered to an Asian audience. To this day, you still don't see as many Far East visitors to Vegas. We're starting to see the pickup coming back. I don't know how the current political situation is going to impact that, but it's not like it was prior to the shutdown. That's one of my big observances, is that the crowd in Vegas is more domestic travelers than before, and it's coming back, but very slowly.
So like you, I've observed more domestic travelers than there were 6 or 7 years ago, but it looks to me like prices have skyrocketed in Vegas, which means if Vegas has shifted to more of a domestic travel market, gosh, that market has embraced Vegas. Because one of the things that I've observed about Vegas is it's way harder to get a really good room deal than it was, 6, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
I was trying to book our Labor Day trip today, and it's pricey. I do not know if I'll even be in the luxury lounge, which makes me super sad.
Yeah. Well, it's part of why I book early, because Labor Day is a peak weekend. And so I booked my room well over a month ago, because we're getting to the stage that if you haven't booked that room yet, the price does nothing but rise. And that is, again, baller on a budget trip. If you think you're going to have a trip and you're trying to save money, book as early as you can. Know the cancellation policies. Only book places that will refund any deposit you put down, but book early. If the price drops, you can always either cancel and rebook, or usually if you call the hotel, they'll move you to the lower price. But if you wait and the price goes up, it probably won't come back down. So that's one of my baller tips. But yeah, I'm at Luxor because I really wanted to be at Mandalay for this trip. I even eyeballed the W, but I went ahead and just took a Tower King at Luxor to save some money, because even whatever it was 5 weeks ago when I booked, the prices were already getting where it was a little bit more than I wanted to spend. I'm trying to do this quote unquote for free. I've got MGM gift cards that I'm buying with City Points, maximizing my credit card, and I don't want to spend any actual money on my room. I want to spend my money on food and entertainment.
I think that is a genius plan. So besides the clientele, have you observed anything else which seems like it has changed a lot in Vegas?
Yeah, the biggest one to me that's a head scratcher, because the numbers of tourists are back. People are there. But Vegas was a 24/7, 365 city prior to the pandemic. It is very difficult. I remember the last time we went to Mandalay, all of us. So I guess this was not Labor Day 25, because I missed that trip, but Labor Day 24. My flight got in late. The only thing I could get to eat at Mandalay that late at night was a Subway that was trying to close down in the food court. It was maybe 5 minutes after midnight, and there was nothing to eat. The number of venues that are closing early, that used to either close much later or didn't close at all, even though there's crowds and there's people out there, Vegas has not gotten back to that 24 hours a day schedule that it was. And that's really, like, I kind of miss that. I like being able to roll out of bed at 3 a.m. and go stumble down for a snack and then go back up to my room. Our last trip together, Bill, where I was at the Link, I had to make do with the Buddy V pizza vending machine, because that's what was available.
You out Whataburger me, John, because you just thought about something I hadn't thought about, but you're right? Like, I remember back in the day, and this is, I think, before I typically even started traveling to Vegas with you, but me and whichever friend I was there with would find ourselves Vegasing at somewhere between 11 at night and 2 in the morning. We'd be hungry, and there were plenty of choices. And yeah, I mean, 100%, that is harder now, except it seems like it's only harder on the Strip. If you're stumbling around downtown Las Vegas at 1 a.m., somebody's still got a slice of pizza for you, and I don't think White Castle closes. White Castle Las Vegas is basically the Waffle House of Las Vegas. By the time they close, that means there's been a severe natural disaster and you need to go home to your family.
Honestly, there was a thread on Reddit asking what's the best show in Vegas, and everybody's saying Absinthe or Oh by Cirque du Soleil. I said the 3 a.m. White Castle line on Fremont. It's a free show,
And it's
and
an
you never know what you're
amazing
going to see.
show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no. Everything about
it's
that
great.
show is right.
Yes, and wrong and right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You do what you got to do, right? All right. So I've noticed, actually, I guess before I go into my list, we should probably let you finish your list because we've heard me talk at some length before. Any other big changes you've seen in Vegas over the last 5 years, John?
Well, the last one, I think you kind of touched on it. Like when they first opened up, there were great deals to be had. They were waiving parking. Sometimes they waived resort fees. Sometimes they my wife and I had to stay at Park MGM where like a pool cabana cost us like, I want to say like $50 for the day. A lot of things were cheap to entice people to come back. That's gone. That prices, as you've already alluded to, prices are through the roof. Even though they're making record profits, they're still nickel and diming people. And, we've talked about this in previous episodes. Lots of other podcasters and bloggers and journalists have noted, even the Review Journal, which is 6 months late to every party, has noted there's starting to be a pushback from consumers, especially with strip properties. But the pricing structure really is out of hand. And Vegas is still a cheaper place to travel if you know how to plan your trip, but it's starting to take more work to get the deals than it used to.
So I will go ahead and bounce off of that to kind of start my list about what's changed. And yeah, it's way harder. So I have been actively trying to book our Labor Day trip today, and there'll be more about that when we get to news stories. But we've talked about it before. It's literally the tagline of the show. I like to book a nice suite and and access to the luxury lounge, and I've just about been priced out. Right, my wife and I, we work hard. We earn good money. Right, like we've caught a lot of lucky breaks in life and all that sort of stuff. But for the Labor Day trip, so me and my buddy Mike were trying to look at 2-bedroom suites. The cheapest 2-bedroom suite at the Mandalay Bay, which is at the far south end of the Strip, after you applied my discount, was like $1,200 a night. I don't have that kind of money, right? And even during the middle of the week, a lot of times, nice stuff is more money than I want to pay. So no, it is hard to get it's not hard to get a good deal in Vegas. You can still absolutely do that. It is increasingly hard to get a good deal on a premium property in Vegas.
So
you've tried to book nice rooms before, right? Like when you're going places with your wife, and it's rough now.
Yeah, like we did get a decent deal on Vidara, but again, we now get enough city points to buy MGM gift cards to take the sting off. So we've been doing Vidara every July when she and I go, but the credit card points are helping us do that because it's not an outrageous room, but it's not cheap. Hey, Bill, as a side note, if the 2-bedroom suite is booked at Mandalay or out of your reach, we've been talking about the Dirty Castle. Could this be the trip, buddy? Come on.
I would stay at the Dirty Castle, but they just closed their spa, which I am certain was a lovely facility where I'd absolutely be willing to put myself anywhere. So, yeah, sadly, no Dirty Castle. I'll just stay home because you know what we've got in Alabama is bars and fried pork products. And if my choice is to stay in Alabama and go to the bar and eat some fried pork somewhere, or to go to the Dirty Castle, I'm going to play me some Leonard Skinner all weekend long.
All right. I'll try to persuade you off air. I'm willing to move my booking to Excalibur. I think we bite the bullet. I think our listeners and the YouTube viewers want to see your room reviews and hear us talk about it. I think now's the time. It's the only MGM property we've never stayed at, Bill.
So I just posted a review of the Beau Rivage on Wednesday on the Dine Drink Vegas YouTube channel. And that review used the word naked, N-E-K-K, by goodness, I-D, and made reference to what y'all's mamas taught you. I suspect that would get way, way worse if I was at the Dirty Castle. And a lot of other things in Vegas See that smooth segue? A lot of other things in Vegas have gotten a lot worse. Notably, the thing which has gotten worse to me in Vegas over the last 5 years, I miss buffets. A lot of hotels shut down their buffet for COVID, and they just never came back. And even some places like the Luxor, where right now it looks like is where I'm going to book for the Labor Day trip, the Luxor is in the process of shutting down their buffet now. So most of the buffets in town have shut down, and the ones which are still there are phenomenal. They're things like Caesars or Wynn, but these are places that are $65-$70 for brunch and are a fundamentally different experience. So I miss the buffet. John, do you care about buffets going away in Vegas?
So here's the thing. I used to weigh, we think, close to 400 pounds. I quit getting on the scale after 350 because at a certain point, fat is fat. In those days, I loved a good cheap buffet. But now I'm down to 208. And the only way I want a buffet now is if it's really high quality food. So for me, when I want a buffet, I'm willing to pay for Wicked Spoon or Wynn or the Buck and All. But I like the rise of food courts because I can get an appetizer from one place. Well, they say food halls because it's classier, but same difference. Especially the ones that you order on the app. Because rather than get a buffet where I might pick up 20 food items, I can get an appetizer from one place, my entree from another, and if I indulge in a dessert from another. And I can get 3 different types of cuisines, but they're all going to be high level. And the price of all 3 is still probably going to be less than the nicer buffets. I personally do not miss that. But again, I started going to Vegas later, and I was not there for the $3 buffets back in the glory days. I don't have the nostalgic thing for the Vegas buffet that a lot of our listeners and you clearly have.
So, and I'm not quite that old. Like, I'm old, but I'm not that old. I'm not $3 Vegas buffet old. But it was so darn easy. You would wake up in the morning and your hotel was going to have a buffet, and you would go there and you would process the night before, and it was going to be fine. Also, it turns out, and I'm going to use a mathematical fact here, John, so sit down because what I'm going to say is shocking. But it turns out that 20 years ago, I was 20 years younger than I am right now, right? Which
funny how that works. Yeah,
it's weird. And 20 years ago, I was willing to make very different dietary choices. Much like you, I used to be a larger human being. But setting that aside, me and my friends would get into competitive eating contests, and oh dear Lord, okay, fine, it's fine. I'm glad they've shut down the buffets. I want to kill that version of me because that was a terrible, sad thing that I don't ever want to bring back. Yeah. And there's one good thing. I'm going to move on now because otherwise I'm going to think about the terrible life choices that like 2005 Bill used to make. One thing which has changed in Vegas for the better is over the course of the last 5 years or so, and I don't think it's tied to COVID, I think it's just worked out, the Las Vegas airport, what used to be McCarran and is now Harry Reid, has gotten better, and in particular, the airport lounge game has gotten better. At some point, 5-ish years ago, they added, it may be a little bit further back than that, but they added the American Express Centurion Lounge. There's also a United Club now. You've got a Chase Sapphire Lounge now. You've got a Priority Pass Lounge. All of those lounges are easy to access from most of the terminals. And, you know, it's the end of the trip to Vegas. You're probably not in the very best mood of your life. And having some quiet place to sit with coffee and something decent to eat is nice for me. Do any of your credit cards give you access to any of those lounges, John?
Not currently. However, I am seriously considering dumping out of my Southwest card and getting a Chase Sapphire card so that I get access to that lounge. Partially because, baller on a budget tip, my Southwest points through the credit card are nice, but I've done the math. I could get points in another program that I could use many places, including Southwest, and get this lounge access. And now that we're getting a Costco, I can buy Southwest gift cards at a discount at Costco and use that to buy my flights. And that's just as good a deal. So I do want to make sure that I get access to that Sapphire Lounge. By the way, If you happen to be one of the more, like Bill and I are stodgy Protestants who, don't want to do anything that would cause our wives to divorce us. So the rest of you may not care about this factoid. But for those of you who don't go to Vegas for adult entertainment, listeners, when Googling for the Sapphire Lounge at the airport, please enter Chase Sapphire Lounge. Because if you search Sapphire Club, that returns to the name of a gentleman's club that you may not want on your browser search history. If you do, no judgment, you do you. But just a public service announcement, be very specific what you mean by Sapphire Vegas, okay? Just putting that out there.
There's no reason I asked this, John, but the next time I'm in your town, which I think is going to be over Memorial Day, is there any chance I can come visit you at work and have like 30 seconds alone with your computer?
No.
Okay.
No, our IT department watches us like hawks, and I don't trust you.
You shouldn't trust me because I have every bit of malicious intent in the world.
Yeah. So I love you like a brother, which is why I don't trust you. All right.
Yeah, no, we've met, and I want to be upset, but what you just said is totally fair. John, what's going on in Las Vegas news?
So we got a few from Scott at Vital Vegas because, of course, we do. We rip off Scott every single episode. He reports that, speaking of food halls, now that the buffets are going away and being replaced largely by food halls, the Fremont Hotel's food hall is pushing Roly Roadie out the door. And, Bill, I don't know if you remember, excuse me, where I went down the wrong way. I actually ate at that venue when we had a meal on the guys' trip with your blessed brother-in-law Mark, and I got their pork loin sandwich, and it was a little bit dry. The flavors were good, but the texture was dry. That's going away, which I'm okay with. I can take or leave that venue, but they're replacing it with a Fremont Pizza Company, and I guess my question is, does Fremont Street need more pizza, and does this place stand a prayer against Pizza Rock, Evil Pie, and Pop-Up Pizza?
So, to the first question, do they need another pizza place? No. To the second place, does it stand a prayer? Sure, it might be better. It might do something better than the others, but if it makes it one of the other ones is going to shut down, one of the great strengths of Fremont Street is the ability to get a great slice of pizza at almost any hour of the day. Like we talked about that earlier on this episode. Oh, yeah. But there's only so much demand. I would rather Roly Roti was still there.
Yeah, I just kind of wonder whether this is the right thing to go in there because we mentioned the holy trinity of pizza on Fremont, Pizza Rock, Evil Pie, and Pop-Up, and I think you and I ranked them in that order. But it's not 1, 2, 3. It's 1A, 1B, 1C. All three are excellent. It comes down to preference.
And honestly, what you're close to, right?
Yeah. But I will say there's already Chicago Brewing Company in the Four Queens has pizza. There's that pizza stand at Tacos y Micheladas in the middle of Fremont. And if you walk in there, don't get the pizza, get the tacos. They're way better. Pizza's okay, but there's better pizza options. Get the tacos. So there's already a variety of pizza options. I don't know. I wonder if another fast casual Asian place would have been smarter. I know that the only burger place that's in there is, I think it's Shake Shack, or it's Steak and Shake. It might be nice to have a local burger joint instead of a national chain that's just kind of, I'll say it, mid. But yeah, I guess I haven't met a pizza I won't eat, so I'll give it a go.
Fair. Well, speaking of new things going in, Scott at Vital Vegas also shared pictures of the building of the guitar tower at the Hard Rock.
Oops.
And I'm kind of excited to go take a look at this. So, listeners, if you follow the Dine, Drink Vegas YouTube channel, then you'll have seen some tours of the Hard Rock in Biloxi, Mississippi, which is not built like a guitar, but is otherwise fully a Hard Rock. I think this will be a nice addition to the Vegas scene. I guess the only reason that I'm sad about it is that I liked the old Mirage because the Mirage was one of the last places I could go and get lounge access, get a premium suite. But because it was a little bit of an older property, they didn't charge me too terribly much for it. Also, The redheaded woman who used to tend bar at the steakhouse there at Heritage Steak.
Oh, yeah.
I very much hope that they retain her because she was a superbly talented bartender who also was still selling, and gosh, this must have been 500 years ago now, was still selling Pappy Van Winkle for like $35 a shot or something.
Yeah.
So,
no, yeah.
Are you going to check out this new hotel, John?
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. I'm very excited about this. I don't get me wrong, I miss the Mirage, and I wish there was a world where the Mirage still existed and the Hard Rock was coming in, but that's the nature of Vegas. Things change. I never got to see the Stardust. I never got to see the Riviera. There's a lot of legendary properties that come and go. I will forever miss the Mirage, but I'm excited about the Hard Rock. Both things can be true at the same time. I'm sure rooms in the Guitar Tower will cost more than rooms in the old Mirage Towers, whatever they're going to name those now. But I'm also thinking the view from those rooms, because of where it's going to be placed, that you're either looking down South Strip or up North Strip. I'm thinking the view from those rooms is going to be phenomenal, and I really want to check that out.
No, I do too. Well, speaking of old Vegas institutions, what's going on at the Flamingo, John?
So we've talked about a couple of times on the podcast that the Go Pool at Flamingo is getting remodeled, and they've only said initially that they would be open for pool season. Well, if it's 95 in West Texas, it's more than that in Vegas. We are beyond the start of pool season. Scott of Vital Vegas has been warning all along that they weren't going to be open by March, that wasn't happening. He's now reporting that they're targeting for mid-May. I think he said May 12th, somewhere in there. We'll see whether or not that actually happens. You were not impressed with your stay at Flamingo. We kick Bugsy and Meyer in the crotch every chance we get. I've walked around that pool complex as it was. That's actually one of the best things about Flamingo. And if what they're doing now is an improvement on what was, I really want to see this pool area when it opens. It might actually make me stay there, even though your room experience was less than ideal.
So I'm actually willing to give Flamingo one more shot, partially because of the pool, also because Flamingo, when I was last there, which has been, I don't know, a year or so ago, but they were building a new Cuban restaurant. And you know what they have at Cuban restaurants, John, is rum drinks. Have you ever tried rum, John?
Once or twice.
Yeah. So, I will give the Flamingo one more shot, but I'm going to wait till I know that the pool is open and wait till I know that that Cuban joint is open.
I believe the Cuban joint is open. We can double check that, but I'm 99% sure it is because I've seen one of the big influencers. I don't think it was Norma. By the way, as a side note, Norma's friend, what is her name?
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
She's got her own channel now.
Huh.
So there's she's doing,
excellent Vegas content to watch.
Yes. So yes, we are all for, attractive girls doing YouTube stuff. We're good with that.
That is an amazing thing.
And both of those ladies know the city well. I mean, legitimately, they are good presenters. We quite enjoy their stuff. But it was one of the big YouTube names. You'll be one someday. You won't be a pretty girl, but you'll be a big YouTube name someday. But one of the ones that has a bigger audience than us, they have been there. They said it was good, but I can't remember who off the top of my head. 99% sure that was open.
Cool. Well, in other Vegas news, Las Vegas locally is reporting, although to be fair, Vital Vegas also has the story, but Las Vegas locally is reporting that something like MGM Resorts is going to lay off something like 200 people in their contact center. And what that is the people that you call when you want to make room reservations. In related news, you heard me say earlier that I've been trying to book my Labor Day trip today. The website's not working properly. I can't book my room, with the discounts I get from my MGM rewards and all that sort of thing. And what they're saying is to call in this number. That's where they're firing people from. Yeah. So I get it. There are more younger people than there are older people in the world. Cool, fair, phenomenal. Of course, Vegas should do stuff to cater to those folks. But it turns out, John, that people in roughly our age bracket, what we have is money to spend sometimes. And sometimes I want to pick up the phone and talk to somebody to fix whatever problem I have. So I don't know what's coming from this. I don't know if they're going to offshore the call center. I don't know if they're going to make you do it online. Maybe you get lucky and you talk to somebody in individual hotels. But yeah, I am not happy about that. John, when's the last time you actually called somebody to make a hotel reservation?
I can't think of the last time I called to make a reservation. I did call Plaza to deal with an issue with my online account on my reservation for our Plaza trip back in January. With MGM, I think I've called the number before, and weirdly, I called the number and I didn't get a call center person. I actually got a front desk person at Mirage at the time. So I don't know whether any staff is being retained. I don't know what the call volume looks like these days. So I don't want to criticize the company too much without enough data to go on. But I do get it that I think you and I approach being our age in two different ways. And I mean this with no disrespect. I think I'm more Gen X than you in the sense that I'd rather not talk to people unless I really want to, which is weird because in a social situation, I'm more likely to talk to strangers than you. But when it comes to business things, let me deal with the computer. So I do understand why people are upset about this. I'm reserving judgment.
So, and I can see that point. That is fair. So, what is this I read about what's going on with Tillman Furtada and the Nugget and the Wynn?
So, Tillman Furtada, who is the owner of the Golden Nugget and everything Landry's based, but no longer the CEO because I don't think he's been confirmed yet, but he's in the process of becoming our ambassador to Italy. Just bought an additional 400,000 shares in the Wynn. So his ownership stake has gone from 6.7 or 6.9, I'm going off memory percent, to I think 12.3, 12.5, something like that. So he's taken a big chunk out of the Wynn. You found that story in the Review Journal. On a related note, you and I talked about the project that they were going to build a Post Oak hotel where the old Hawaiian market was. I guess that project's dead, and he seems to be gobbling up more and more of the Wynn. I'm kind of wondering if this is a prelude to him eventually trying to take controlling interest, and that'll be Tillman's way of making his way to the Strip, because I don't think that Post Oak concept, which I was looking forward to, small boutique Texas-themed hotel in Vegas, yes please, looks like that doesn't seem to be happening. I can't find any updates. Maybe this is it.
Maybe. You know what? He seems to do a good job with his businesses, and I am absolutely going to be willing to check that out.
Yeah.
And other new stuff happening in Vegas, Eater Vegas has dropped their list of the 9 most anticipated Las Vegas restaurant openings this spring. And I will ask you in a second, John, what your favorite is, because we talked about it before and we've kind of got the same favorite. But one of the things that I noticed off the Eater Vegas list is how much cool, interesting new stuff is happening in the Arts District. So, folks, we've talked about it on this podcast before, but the Arts District is a local-centric area between the north end of the Strip and between Fremont Street, where we have stayed, or rather haven't stayed before, but we've gone to eat before. But there's an increasingly large number of interesting bars and restaurants there, and it might be worth the Uber ride. John, what on the Eater Vegas list really stands out to you?
Well, you and I have already talked about Bar Boheme, which is James Tree bringing French cuisine to that neighborhood. He's already got Esther's Kitchen. If anybody didn't catch our Esther's episode, go back. If you didn't see Bill's video on YouTube on Esther's, go see it. I think you and I both agreed Esther's is the best Italian meal we've had in Vegas. We ate Le Cirque on that trip, and Esther's was still my best meal. So James Tree could do no wrong in my book. I think the thing I'm most excited about, and you know, they're going to put another Evil Pie with the Evil Knievel Museum and Arts District. So I'm down with the Arts District. The thing I want to check out, though, is Viva Via Food Hall, because we've already talked about I like a food hall. I really do. And the Venetian has such a great portfolio of restaurants. Yardbird and Chica are among my favorite restaurants on the Strip, and they're both right next to each other in the Venetian. I want to check out that food hall. That's got my attention. How about you?
So, I mean, you're right? Like the food hall and Bar Bohem are my favorite. So like the Evil Knievel Museum and Pizza Parlor seems cool, but there's already so much good pizza in Vegas, and we talked about that earlier on this episode. There's just not a lot of space there. I would be willing to try any of these. I guess the least exciting to me is the Pisces Bar and Seafair at the Wynn, because I get it, right? They are paying $300 trillion or whatever it is to fly in fresh seafood, and it is going to be great seafood. I just can't get over the mental block of y'all are in the middle of the desert. It seems like a weird place to go get super fresh seafood. And yeah, you're actually about to sell me. I kind of want to go check out the Arts District more often.
Yeah, and it's a shame that the only good hotel down there is Todd English's hotel. And, you know, if you believe all the things that have been said about Mr. English, he's kind of a nicky human being. And then it looks like I've seen the videos, Travel Ruby did one. Like they have a thing where like the bathroom, the shower has a see-through wall. So if one person's in the living bedroom space and somebody else is showering, you can watch the love of your life shower. That's great for young, good-looking couples. My wife and I are at an age where she's still a pretty lady. I don't think she wants to watch me soap up. I'm not a model. Like that's.
I can't unsee that image, John, and
yeah,
I like you less now than I did 30 seconds ago.
I would like to see there be a hotel down there that interests me, because then I might go stay. Might be one of those trips where you split your stay and you do a night. In the Arts District and then a night on the Strip or on Fremont or whatever. Because you do that a lot where you bounce hotels. I never do. But that would be a trip where I would do that. I don't know that I stay at the English.
So let me ask you a question real quick about that weird bathroom setup. Is it as bad as the poop and pour at the Golden Gate?
And that is not a poop and pour unless your arms are 9 foot long. I have explained this. I've shown you the video. I can draw you a diagram if necessary. And I will die on this hill. The suites at the Golden Gate are a fantastic deal. They really are. I don't care how much shade Bill throws. Yes, the floor plan is weird. Yes, the hospital divided curtain is weird. It's a very comfortable room. It's nice that they have a coffee maker and they have a fridge, and I don't care. I would stay there again. If you want access to Circa, but you don't want to pay Circa prices, get a suite, ignore Bill. It's a good deal.
And it's such a good deal that you can poop and pour your drink at the same time.
All right. So we have two more news stories.
We got two stories
Next to last news story, Eater Vegas also provided some coverage for Aldi and H Mart, the big Asian supermarket chain, both opening up with new supermarkets in Vegas. Their first locations there on April 10th. Now, I know you have no plans to ever move to Vegas, but I'm actively considering when I hit the age that I can retire from my job here in about 9 or 10 years, there's a scenario where I could do my same career work in Las Vegas and get vested in a second retirement pension system in just 5 years. So by the time I'm 65, I can draw pensions from 2 different states, and I'd have the excuse to live in Nevada for 5 years. So as somebody who may eventually become a local, I kind of like what's happening with the grocery stores.
So I absolutely see that. We actually have an Aldi here in my town in Alabama, and I like those. Now, you can't count on it as your grocery store because the product selection is weird, and they may or may not have the thing you're looking for. But it's a good thing to have as part of the rotation because the stuff they do have is great quality and tends to be pretty cheap. I'm unfamiliar with H Mart, but yeah, having a good ethnic cuisine grocery store is always a bonus.
Oh yeah.
Just know that if y'all move to Vegas, I'm going to show up, and I assume hilarity ensues from that point.
I would imagine so. Yeah, and that's a good excuse when people come to town. We'll do staycations. Yeah. Because when you live somewhere, you never go see the touristy things. So let me be really clear. I'm not planning to move to Las Vegas because I plan to party all the time. Like legitimately, this is a financial decision based on my career and just how pension systems work in my career field. That actually might be the smartest way for me to make sure that once I do retire, I have enough money to, travel and have fun, which is what I want to do in my golden years. All right, Bill, would you like to take the last story?
I will take it because, listeners, congratulations. We have not done a Vegas WTF segment in quite a while, but today is the day. Mm-hmm. And this wow, I don't know where I came up with nude, particularly not when I'm looking at your face. In this news, which is even weirder than the donkey we did bring into church this morning or the kangaroo we did not, a man's 7 emotional support tigers in Pahrump, a suburb of Las Vegas, were seized by authorities on April the 3rd. And an emotional support tiger seems to me like it's super weird because he does not care about your needs. He's basically a house cat who's big enough to do something about it when he eats your face. 7 of them is several levels past a bad replay of The Hangover. So, yeah. John, how many emotional support tigers do you own?
I have an emotional support bottle of rum.
Yes, but now that emotional support bottle of rum is 2 shots short.
3, because I refilled mid-episode.
Huh.
By the way, pro broadcasting tip, when I brought in, we don't show you the video of this, but Bill could see it. When I brought my glass in, I had a second container with the next pour of rum because that's the civilized way to do it. And if you're ever thinking about podcasting, there's your tip. Bring the second drink with you.
If I follow you, will you teach me your ways?
Oh, indeed. Indeed. Right. So, yeah. All right. So, Bill, I think that's about it. So why don't you tell all of our listeners where they could find more Dine, Drink Vegas, and Dine, Drink Travel content?
Folks, you can find us on essentially every social media platform at Dine, Drink, Travel. That includes X or Twitter or whatever Elon is calling it these days. It includes Facebook. It includes Blue Sky. It includes, I'm sure, several things Instagram. It includes Threads. You can also find us on YouTube at Dine, Drink, Travel for reviews about cruises and air travel, and at Dine, Drink, Vegas for reviews about, wait for it, Las Vegas. And you can find us on the web at dinedrinktravel.com. Where can they find you, John?
You can find me mostly on Twitter, occasionally on Blue Sky at Dine Drink John. And also shout out to the listener who pointed out, I need to make a correction. I said that if you have the MGM credit card, they only give you free play and you're stuck with it. One of the listeners pointed out that you can go to the M Life desk and have that converted back to other things and apply it to your room or food or dining or entertainment. So, oops, my mistake. Glad we could clarify.